Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Industry Talks. Today we have someone super special. Her name is Jada Jones. She is a 19-year-old actress and content creator. She recently relocated to LA to pursue her career after she graduated from a performing arts high school in Charlotte, North Carolina, where she was born and raised. She is so experienced in the business, and I just can't wait for you guys to see it. Here it is.
Hello, thanks for having me, Justin. This
Of
is so
course.
fun. I love podcasting. Hi guys, my name is Jada Jones. I am a 19-year-old actor that lives in LA. I also do social media and tons of other things, but we'll probably get into a lot of that in the podcast, so I won't ramble.
Yeah. So my first question is what made you want to become an actor, get into the entertainment industry in general? And then when did
Mhm.
you make the conscious or unconscious decision to go professional?
Yeah, great question. I went to a performing arts middle school and high school and an elementary magnet school. So the arts were always surrounded by me like 24/7, like as soon as I was growing up. I actually started in dance, like that was my main thing. Like at 7, I started taking ballet and then I eventually, moved to the big studio, did point, like did all kinds of styles of dance. And then when I was in my middle slash high school, because it was one school, performing arts, I studied musical theater and dance as well. So that's when I decided to really take musical theater seriously. Um, and that's where I really started with acting. Broadway was kind of my like, that's what I want to do, like whatever. So after graduating a year early from my performing arts high school, I decided to move to New York City to just like dive into the real world and just start auditioning for Broadway stuff. So that was really, really fun and honestly super successful. And then COVID hit. So after COVID hit, or during COVID actually, and while I was in New York City, I started doing some extra work and I was like, let me just see what the film and TV life is like because we never really studied that in depth in high school or at all. Like maybe some intensives would come and roll through in Charlotte and they would teach a little bit about film and TV, but nothing too deep. And I wanted to explore more about it. And once I did that, I really fell in love with film and TV. So COVID was kind of that like, thing that was like, okay, I guess you can move back home now, reevaluate, see what you want to do. And then that's when I really was like, let's pivot and let's go film and TV route. So I've always been interested in acting to answer your question. So it was always like a professional decision. Like I knew I was going to keep doing it. Yeah.
Oh, that's so when you originally went to New York City, you
Mm-hmm.
graduated a year early from high school, went to New York
Mm-hmm.
for mostly Broadway and dance, you said, right?
Yeah.
So what was that like? And did you like when did you in that process of auditioning get representation? How was
Mm-hmm.
that journey like? Because
Yeah.
everyone's is completely different in getting representation.
Mm-hmm.
For like every person I ask, it's like very drastically different depending
For
on
sure.
what happened. So how did you get your first agent slash manager and has
Mm-hmm.
it changed? How did that process go?
Sure. Yeah. So I was in New York, like I said, like and I'm trying to think. I think my so I okay, end of 2019. That's when I went back home to also like reevaluate and like in December, like holiday season, like you don't really want to be in New York at that time. So I went back in January of 2020. This is getting closer to COVID, obviously. And I wanted to get signed by an agency. So I was like, I think we should go dance route, like agency first, because I feel like that's what I know how to do. I had done self tapes at that point, but nothing too drastic for projects or anything, more so for like short films, things going on, just things to put on tape, but nothing for acting stuff. So I didn't even know how that really works. So I was like, let's submit for a dance agency. And I honestly got really lucky and just submitted through what's it called? Like a portal, like for like a website. Like it's just one of those like submissions because dance agencies, it was kind of like a modeling agency where you send like your real, like you send everything through, online. So I did that and heard back from like the president of this dance agency, and it's a really big one here in LA. But I was in New York City at the time, so they were in the process of trying to open a New York City like location and all that stuff, and it was just really complicated. But technically, his New York City clients weren't signed to the agency; like they were just on a word of mouth, like contract basis, so to speak.
Right.
Like it wasn't really, yeah. So that's kind of what it was. And then, like I said, so I got signed right before COVID happened, which was like great to have like my first agent. But at the same time, it just started getting weird. And honestly, I did not have a good experience with this agency at all. It was not fun. And during COVID, he announced that he wanted to start sending people on film and TV stuff because all of dance, all of Broadway, like all of that was shut down. So all the opportunities were very, very far and few between, if any at all. um And he said that he was going to kind of have an acting department for all of his dance clients, and you could submit a job form if you want to be represented for film and TV. And I was like, oh, Jada, like this is a perfect time to get into film and TV, because like that's what's going to semi be kind of going on right now. So I guess you should, roll with the punches and just go with that, because the live theater is not coming back for a while. And before that, I was auditioning for cruise ships. I got a call back for Hamilton. Like I was in auditioning process. So to go from that and be like, okay, I guess we can switch to film and TV was a very like decision, but I really, really loved film and TV at that point. So I was excited. So I submitted the job form and whatever, and he responds with, you're not ready for this. Like you can't do this, like blah, 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 blah. And it was just weird because I even talked to him about potentially relocating to LA the next year before we even knew COVID was really a thing. I was like, I want to move to LA. Like, I would love to be represented commercially, dance commercial wise in LA, because New York doesn't really have a commercial type background. It's very theatrical as far as like theater stuff. So yeah, and he was like, you can't do that. Like social media stuff, it's like, he's like, it's a whole different ballgame. Like really just it made me, I was like, the vibes are bad. It was so not good. So I made the executive decision to be like, hey, let's talk about this. Like I'm a very big communicator, and that's really important with agents and managers, I feel like. So I was like, let's talk about this. Like I want to make this relationship work, but like it was so many things after another that was just like really making me like, it was just red flag after another. And I was like, let me give him the chance to obviously talk about it, because what if he doesn't even know what he's doing, whatever. Right. I sent this really nice email just to be like, hey, I think we might have gotten off on the wrong foot. Like some things are going well, other things aren't going well. Do you want to hop on a call? Because initially, even when signing me on, we hopped on a call. He sounded great. That's the only reason why I signed with him in the first place. And basically he responded in a very quick, like, I think I've pretty much done everything that I can for you. So I think it's best that we terminate our partnership. And I was like, okay, I gave you the chance. And I kid you not, the very next day, I receive an email from him again. And I'm like, we literally just terminated our partnership. Like, what does this guy want? And he goes, yeah, you got a call back for The Music Man on Broadway. And I was like, what? I was like, oh, like, of course, like, yeah. And you let me go. He's like, I know we terminated our partnership, but like, I hope we can, like adhere to whatever we had before. And I was like, sir. Anyway, obviously I did the callback, I did the other stuff and whatever. And then Broadway kind of went even more silent after that. But that just goes to show you that like, don't settle for less when it comes to agencies. Don't settle for less if you feel like you're not being treated well. But it was good to know that I just, had that experience, know what it feels like to not be with someone that values you. And then during COVID was when I wanted to sign with my agency that I'm with now. And yeah, so that's kind of what happened. And then during COVID, I really just like busted my butt to just like work on things at home, because I feel like that's what I had more control over, was the things at home. And yeah, there you go.
Wow, that's actually that's like a great learning lesson, like for anybody. Sure. I feel like to have like a not so great experience and then to realize what you're worth and realize what you want to be into in the industry, and then go off and like be like, no, I'm all set with you. Let's go find someone else.
Yeah.
That's so true. So how did you, so after you dropped that agency, that was in LA, how long did it take you to sign with your current agency now? Like, was that a quicker process since you already had some experience, or no?
Yeah. So I had actually taken a trip to LA in September of 2020 while COVID was still very like bad, but at the same time, like we didn't know it was starting to ride out, whatever, because I wanted to potentially move here in December of 2020. So I was like, oh, like, let me take a trip in September. And while I was here, I was like, let me, do some research on agencies. Let me do all that. And then I just like reached out to all the people that I know, and I ended up getting a referral to an agency. So I really was so appreciative for that. But at the same time, for the agency, I still had to put myself on tape and stuff. So, but yeah, and then I got signed in September of 2020. Like as soon as I came back from LA, which was, I guess, all the inspirational fuel and whatever. I just felt like I can do this. Like I already had an agent. Let me leverage the heck out of that and be like, I was already signed to an agency. Like they didn't even have to know what I did, but just, just knowing how to pitch yourself. I always say that that's like the most important part of like being an actor, because there's so much more than just the craft that you have to understand and know. So yeah, I got signed in September of 2020, aka like a year ago. And then after that, got signed to my management right before I moved to LA, because I was like, I want a manager and I want someone who's really, really good. And I have the best manager in the world. And yeah, it's a matter of just like all of that stuff going on. So yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that was like a
Yeah.
hectic like one
Yeah.
like year, 2 years basically. Like basically
Hmm.
after you went to New York and then back and forth from LA. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. That
Yeah.
works.
And so after you started getting the agent you have now and getting
Mhm.
more consistent TV and film auditions, are you still doing musical theater or no?
That's the thing. Oh gosh, I love live theater so much, so much. I just think that now my priorities have completely shifted. Like I know that I really am digging my foot into film and TV now, and there's kind of not really going back on my end as far as like moving to New York City to do Broadway, because I don't know what's on the Broadway scene right now is not really my cup of tea. Like I feel like I was so much more interested in like maybe a revival that would come up or something, or like something new, because there's not much new material coming out, especially with all the craziness of last year, like, so yeah, I'm definitely not going for the cruise ship route anymore. Like I really am just focused on film and TV now. But the perfect thing would be like, a live thing like Hairspray Live or whatever on Fox
Yeah.
or whatever, like that would be the ideal type, experience, or some kind of movie musical. I really just do like the atmosphere of being on film and TV like more for that stuff now, because I just don't resonate with anything on the theater scene.
Yeah. And so for self-tapes, do you have a like quote unquote, I guess, process of doing it? Or do you
Hmm.
does it vary depending on the character or what kind of thing you're trying to do?
Yeah, like literally right before we hopped on this call, I'm working on one right now, and it's a pretty, big deal. So I'm like, okay, like I want to make sure that like I'm doing a good job. Yeah, it depends on the character. Some of them are really like, I don't know. I just had this conversation with my manager about how like these days they cast people based on what you already are, which is so weird, because it's like back then it's like as an actor you should be able to shapeshift and whatever. And there are roles like Joker, for example. It's like even him in his real life, he emanates kind of like Joker energy to a certain
Exactly.
extent. Like they're not really trying to cast people that can act anymore, like, which is really frustrating, because it's like you're putting yourself into these worlds and really whatever, but to a certain extent you have to already emanate what the character gives. So that's why I tell people not to be hard on themselves on auditions, because truly if they just don't see you as it, it's probably because you're literally not perfect. Like they want someone that already is that, without having to
Right.
work on acting more or whatever. So with that being said, for some self tapes, some are, true to me and who I am. So those are kind of easier to just knock out and add a little bit of flair. But something like this is completely like opposite character of like who I am type, but like I can still bring myself into it, which would be nice for them to see, because it could be a different spin on whatever. So definitely had to work on this one a little bit like harder than I do for all my other ones. But yeah, so I think it varies per tape, but I think it's important to just do a lot of the homework, as
Yep.
instead of just the memorizing, because anyone can memorize lines for the most part, so yeah.
Yeah. That's so true about like a lot of time more recently, like you're being more
Hmm.
and more cast like yourself. Like you
Yeah.
just give off that energy of the character. And that's so true because the biggest like callback and movie thing that I've done and I was the most proud of was the character that was most like me. Like
that's
was I
that's how
I
it
remember
happens.
I remember reading the script. This was like a few months ago. I remember reading the script and I was
Hmm.
like, oh my God, like this person is me. And it was like a pretty big like deal of a movie. So I'm like,
Hmm.
ah, whatever. I didn't even think about it. And like 2 days later, I got a call back and was all excited and blah, 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 blah. I didn't end up getting it. Obviously, I would be
Yeah.
halfway across the country right now filming it. But the point is that's so true. Most of the auditions I get, I'm like, oh yeah, that is like
Hmm.
definitely me. But when I
Yeah.
do get the ones where it's not me, it's almost like more fun to do.
That's what I'm saying. This one's so fun because I feel like I'm not like I don't really have to. It's kind of, so I do social media as well, and I feel like YouTube and all that stuff, like you're literally yourself, like that you're your own personality, you're your own brand. But when it comes to acting, I'm like, I don't really want to have to be my own brand. Like I want to try different things that aren't me. So auditions like this are so fun because like I actually feel like I'm working on something rather than just like memorizing the lines because this already fits who I am.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
This is a question I love asking. What was
Mm-hmm.
your first real on-set experience like, and
Mm-hmm.
how has it changed, like morphed into like what you now know about what it's like to be on set?
Sure. Are we talking specifically like film and TV? Like not
Um,
because like set on
yeah,
like
I'll say
theater is
film and TV.
different.
Yeah, film TV.
Okay, so film and TV, that's the thing. So like I feel like with COVID and stuff, I haven't really dived into what I know film and TV could possibly be, but from the experiences that I've had, like the first very first on camera thing, it was something very low key, just something in Charlotte that I did that was just like, short film type thing for this summer camp. I think it was this like girls films summer camp. So they want to hire just like actors like that can just like come in their free time to be put on tape for stuff. And yeah, so it's focused more on the girls trying to like, build up their film stuff rather than the actors. So it's not
Right.
really on me. It's more so for them and what they want to do. So that was like my first experience, but like I feel like my first experience where I was like the lead in my short film and whatever, it was in New York City. And it's funny because as soon as I landed in New York City, that was the first audition that I had. It was in person. And I booked it and I booked the lead, and that was crazy. And my live-in nanny, because I was live-in nanny at the time, not my live-in nanny, I was the live-in nanny.
Yeah.
My child that I was watching mother, what do you call that? I don't know. That's so weird. I don't know. She's like my best friend. So I feel like I should just call her best friend. But she was like, Jada, like, that's crazy. She's like, I don't want to ruin your spirits, but like, that won't happen all the time. I was like, trust me, I know. So I'm just taking it, but it was really funny because I did book that and it was so fun just to like, go to Brooklyn, shoot in someone's house, like actually like go all out and like film a short film. So it was really fun. And I got paid for that too. And it was really cool. So that was the first thing. And then after that, I started working on, as an extra on like bigger sets. So like, that was more so like the, observing experience of it all and being able to really take in what it's like to have multiple cameras like around you and multiple hundreds of people besides you, and seeing how they actually like re-record stuff or maybe not re-record stuff or whatever. And that was really cool to see, because then the pressure's not much on you as like the lead to learn lines and make sure you know everything. It's just to observe and like enjoy the waiting game. That's so annoying sometimes, but fun.
Exactly.
So that's how it was really on set. So I'm really looking forward to my next like on set experience where I can do that again. So
Yeah, that's, first of all, kudos to you for your first like
I
audition,
know, that
like
was
booking the lead.
crazy.
That I had a similar experience with that. The first, I've been acting forever, but professional only
Mhm.
like 2 years. And my first in this, again, I only did before COVID, was only a few months that I was doing professional. So most of my experience in the industry has been COVID. So everything's been like online, but I did have a few in-person auditions. And my first one was for a co-star in like a streaming service thing.
Mhm.
And I didn't even think I would like get it. I was just excited to like go into a city and like audition in person, and I
Right.
got it. And I feel like that push is what really was like, if I can do that, then I can do anything. So
Anything, yeah.
all the other rejections, I'm like, well, I
Mhm.
know I can do it. Maybe it just wasn't right. Or maybe
Mhm.
like, I think that's good to have like that push, like to like book one thing. So, this is where you're meant to be. Like, this is like
Mhm.
definitely something to do,
Agreed.
which brings up another thing about rejection and the annoying life sometimes that can be acting,
Mhm. Yeah.
about constant rejection, but it's never real rejection. It's never like a word
No, it's
no.
not.
It's just silence.
Not right now. Time next time. Something else
Yep.
is more perfect for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I really do believe that like if something is meant for you, it is meant for you. And I know that we're constantly paving our ways as actors, but right now as an actor, your job is to audition. Your job is to get rejected, because like that's how you build relationships with casting. That's how you build relationships with even your team, so that they know that you're capable of handling the workload of possibly being a series regular, a lead in a short film, whatever. They've got to know that you can handle it and like take the mental battle of it all, because again, acting is so much more than just the craft. Like, you've got to understand the logistics of, sometimes it's down between two people and someone's dad like really needs their daughter to be in this, and that's how the business works. So that's the life of it. And I feel like like there are some roles that I were really was really attached to, even like in the past couple of months, but even letting that go and just being like, that just wasn't meant for me. Like, yeah, I might have taken a second, but there are constant projects. I don't know why as actors sometimes like we just tend to act like that was the only thing that's out there, like, and there's never going to be anything like that again. Like, there are constant movies coming out every year, and you don't know, it's constant movies, TV shows, pilot, whatever. Like, there's so many things coming out each year. There's so much opportunity, and your mindset is kind of as big as you make a situation. So it's like, if you think that there's not many projects out there, then you won't be sent out for things. If you think that there's an abundance of stuff, you'll always find something to work on. So yeah.
That's true. And finding things to work on, and like having your job be auditioning when you're not
Yeah.
actually working and like being paid. And there was a point you said I wanted to ask you about, building relationships with casting and also
Mm-hmm.
with your representation, what has been your learning experience with that? Because when people hear networking and making connections, people are just like, oh my God, how do I do that? But I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of the times you do it not realizing you're doing it, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. Like
Yeah.
you do acting by doing acting classes and doing
Mm-hmm.
short films, like you don't realize
Yeah.
like you're building connections and you have these people numbers and emails like that you can
Mm-hmm.
reach out to and know about. So how do you make connections and network, and also with that building a relationship with your representation?
Mm-hmm. Good question. I feel like that's everyone who knows me in my life, like, will be like, Jada's the networker. Like, she knows how to talk to people. She knows how to get all these connections. She knows how to go into a room and make sure that everyone knows that she's there and that she can talk to anybody because, like, I think the first we got to start with the mental mindset of networking and just connecting with people. You've got to come from it from a place of like, we're equal, bro. Like, we're on the same playing field. If you idolize, which is fine, like, I mean, I still get so magical, like, oh my gosh, like this actor and whatever, like, and it's cool, but then you've also got to realize, like, we're on the same playing field. Like, we all do the same thing, we're all in the same industry. And it's not like a respect, not from a respect thing, because there is a certain respect for people who have been doing this for like 15, 20, 25 years. That's a different thing. But even those people who that you look up to so much, whether director, film, like any person that works in this industry, you've got to come to it as like an equal and be like, we're in this partnership, like, we're trying to collaborate, we're trying to make things come together, no matter how big they are, no matter how many movies they've cast in, no matter whatever. You, as like me, you can't think of yourself as lower. You can't be like, oh, but like, they won't care about my stuff because, like, who am I? Like, no, you're a bad, like, you can do it. You are so capable of being able to send an email to this person, get on a phone call with this person. So what if they don't respond? Someone will, and when that person does, you never know where that can go down. So I think that's a big thing also in like the social media world, because I'm very much in that as well, or was really, really in that, but now not focusing on it that much. But it's funny because now that I'm not even focusing on social media that much, like, all my opportunities are still rolling and like crazy. And I'm just like, where is this coming from? And it's because when you just come into something as just a good person and ready to accept anything and be a good hard worker on set, or, get your content in or get your self tapes in or whatever, and just like be a punctual good person to work with, everyone's going to want to talk to you. You're like an attraction magnet. And like, I feel like you have to go into every situation being like, not what can this person do for me and like, oh my God, this person is so huge, to what can I do for them? What can I bring to the set? What kind of energy can I bring to their day that could be really hectic and annoying, So yeah, I feel like that's the best way of networking. And same thing with your agents and managers, just keeping track, making sure that you've got your stuff together, making sure your materials are all ready and all that stuff, because who wants to work with someone that, you don't even know how to pitch yourself? How is someone else going to be able to pitch you, So make sure your materials are together, your headshots are updated, your clips, reels, whatever look fine. And just like maintain that rapport with them, because again, like, people don't like to hear it, but agents have their favorites, managers have their favorites, and it's kind of up to you to be quote unquote teacher's pet at some point, not in an annoying way, but in just like a good person like way, and someone's going to really resonate with that and will want to push you really far if you are that person for them. So yeah.
That's great advice. Yes, that was amazing. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's just true. I don't have any input. Right here.
It's okay.
um,
Mic drop.
and you brought up like you were in the social media world. What other,
Yeah.
including that, I know you have a YouTube channel and you had a
Mhm.
podcast. What other, including those things, and also other facets of the entertainment industry, which is huge and consists of so many things, how are those things going? Like what I just said, social
Mhm.
media. And also, are there any things that you're hoping to pursue further down the line aside from like acting?
Okay, yeah. Two completely separate questions, but I'll do the first part
Yes, they
first.
are.
It's okay. So yeah, social media. So I started social media in 2015. That was something that was always so important to me, something that I honestly wanted to do first with my career. And then if acting and all that stuff came down the road, then fine. But now that I'm out of high school and now that, I can really fully focus on acting is now my priority. But social media is just near and dear to me because, especially as an actor and putting those two things in tandem, I feel like actors, when people make it, it just seems so overnight success because you didn't really see anything that went into it. You don't really know the backstory of anything, but my entire journey is on the internet, and I love that so much. Obviously, not everything is on the internet, but like all of my shows from high school and like those videos really resonate with people because they were like what it's like to be in a high school musical, like, and this and whatever, at a performing arts high school, and like we have dance recital and whatever. And people will forever be able to go to that stuff. And I think that that's, this the specialness of my specific journey, because I want people to be able to be like, Jada came from performing arts high school in Charlotte, and she just like was able to do her thing. So social media is important for me on that aspect, because I feel like that also, people don't, they talk about it, the industry talks about how important it is to have a social media, but they do it in a wrong way. Like you think that you're supposed to have 25,000 like followers plus 100,000 followers so that you can book this role, which in some cases can be true. We've seen it happen. But at the same time, I think there's something really to be said about keeping a professional social media and keeping it updated. You don't have to be Instagram famous. You just have to make sure that you have some form of professional profile, because I truly think that's also how I got really great representation, and how I'm going to also seek new representation very soon. So like that's really important. That's really important, because you think about it, and we're acting, we're doing self tapes all the time, but who are you? And like your personality truly is social media these days, if you do choose to put yourself out there. And you have to make sure you're coming across in a way that represents you as like your best self. That's why I also love social media so much, because I feel like I've just, cultivated this community of people who are so excited for their journeys, and, excited to see where I go. And I'm so excited to see where they go. And I'm constantly checking up on everyone, being like, what goals are you like setting this year? Like, what are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. Because when you have that, it also makes it bigger than yourself. You forget like about all the numbers, like you don't really care about the numbers at that point, because it really is about like that community. And that's also why I do acting. I love being on set and working with the crew. I love working with other people. Like, if the movie doesn't come out, oh well, like that moment was so nice to have. And I love human connection, and that's why I do social media. But also it is important in the acting industry to have some form of social media that, especially if you're first starting out and no one knows who you are, just making sure that you're keeping a professional profile. So don't know if I answered that, but yeah, had a YouTube, had a podcast, but like that's how my representation can get to know who I am. They can listen to my podcast and be like, oh, she's had so and so on her podcast, and she's really networking, and she's really gaining all these connections and making a name for herself in her own way and whatever. And that's important. And so I think that this is also great that you're doing something like this, because it's like, your rep can be like, yo, Justin is on a roll. Like, he is talking to these people. He's making sure that, he's giving advice to people who may not have had any and whatever. Like, that's such a cool thing. And I feel like, any actors listening, watching, whatever, like, really do find something that you feel passionate about. Don't force yourself to do social media and take pics and outfits if you don't want to, but also present yourself in a way that like everyone is always watching, because they are. You don't think they are, but casting is always looking up your profiles. They want to know what you're doing, and yeah, you never know. So yes, so that was the very
I want to add one thing. Well, no, you did. I want to add one thing.
Yeah.
When you brought up casting is always looking, I heard a casting director one time said the first thing I do when I see like someone's name or I call someone in for an audition is look up their Instagram. They were like, that's the first thing I do. They were like, I want.
What's the first thing you do? Same thing. You think about it, and it's like, you do the exact same thing as a human. Oh, so-and-so, you're friends with so-and-so. Let me look up their Instagram. You just do that naturally. And like, casting directors are humans. Like, they literally, they know, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So they're also, I mean, you think about it, you're only seeing a headshot on breakdowns. Of course, you're going to want to see who you're actually calling into the office. So look at my Instagram page, like, look at it, like we're doing amazing. But yeah, no, it is important. It really is important. So yeah, I stress that a lot.
Yes. And then the second part of my question, because I lumped them two together, is there anything further down the road now that you're looking into doing in the industry aside from acting?
Yeah. So again, I also just love acting because it culminates so much more than just the craft itself. It's activism. It's a given platform. Like, as you continue to grow as an actor, you are handed this platform that essentially gives you a voice, and not that you don't have a voice now, but, I'm so loud in my own community and it's great, but I want to expand that and be able to have reach to further things and to greater things that are bigger than us, and give people a better quality of life. Like, that's why we do it. We act, we create storylines, we do all this stuff to really bring people in and, give them a different quality of life, essentially. And that's what I want to do in real life for the real people who do support the things that we're doing. Like, that's such a beautiful thing. So activism is a very important part. For me, it can get really stressful sometimes, just like feeding so much information to your brain at once, and you have to know what to say and like all that stuff. And that's a scary part of, starting to build a bigger platform. But at the same time, it's important. So activism is very important to me, whether if that's, with the legal system, with the education system, like all that stuff. So I feel like that's where really, like, if I do choose to expand into anything else, that's where it would go. And then also, I'm such a strong believer in having hobbies that don't deal with acting at all, because this is too niche of an industry that's so focused on appearance and accolades and awards and all this stuff. And yes, that's great. That's so amazing to look forward to and whatnot, but it can get exhausting. And if you don't know how to handle it properly, you've got to go back to something that you love. So for me, that's cooking. For me, like, even not even including social media, I love cooking. I love spending time with my friends and family, like going to the beach, like things that you don't need to monetize, but that you can do for yourself that just make you happy. So like, okay, do I want to become a professional chef for myself? Sure. Like that's kind of where I feel like I would expand into, if that makes any sense. So yeah.
Yes, that's so true. Like having other things where you just don't even look at your phone. Be like,
No.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
not look at my email for 12 hours and just do
Right.
something that's for myself and not for like anybody else. I'm not gonna be reachable. It's so like important to keep up with yourself because like you said, auditioning is a job. Like
It's a
it
job.
is like we don't get paid
That is your
for it,
job.
unfortunately, but it's a job. Like sometimes like I have to drop plans for a weekend to just do this audition. Like I have a really big audition coming up. I have to prep for it. Like it's so true to like take time for yourself. Focusing onto my like name of youth industry talks, I always kind of wrap up with these two big questions so you can go as deep or not deep as you want.
Amazing.
My bigger question is so are you 19?
Yes, I'm 19.
Okay, you're 19.
Yes, you're correct.
So what do you think young people coming up in the industry have to offer the industry now and as we grow up and work in it when we become adults? Well, you are an adult, but like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I have one word and then we're going to expand upon it and really go down in it, but I think it is the most important part of becoming an actor, especially when you're young. Like we're in this space where we're still dependent on our parents and whatnot until you're not, and then you've got to figure out things on your own. But money is very, very important, and I feel like people try and stray away from this topic a lot because it's a taboo thing. We're not all handed equal opportunity from birth, so it's very, very touchy subject to talk about. But I will say that everyone's journey is different, but I really do believe that if there's a will, there's an inevitable way of some sort. But money, like, let's talk about it. Let's unpack it, because as the life of an actor, like you just said, we're auditioning like crazy and we're not getting paid for any of those. That's not a thing. You do not get paid to audition ever. You're paying to audition essentially, like for whatever your outfit you're trying to get. Say you're doing something for an agent manager panel, you're paying to do this stuff. And it is not a cheap career to go down. Like it's not something that even your BFA from college can hand you. It's not something that mommy and daddy can even pay all the way into, but if they can, then so be it. And it's like, it's unfair, yes, but also life is unfair. And like, I hate to be that person, but you kind of have to be very honest with yourself when it comes to money. And I didn't even grow up in a rich household by any means. Like I had to truly fight for a lot of things, but I do understand where my privilege lies. And that's also a really important thing. And knowing what you were handed that you can use to your advantage to move forward. Like I live in LA by myself at 19, and no, that would not have happened without a lot of steps that I would have taken, a lot of sacrifices my parents made. But it's important to talk about money. And if you're really trying to become a serious actor in this business, you're going to be coughing out a lot of cash, whether if it's for training, coaching, headshots, like networking stuff. Like you're going to spend money. So you have to learn how to make money work for you. You have to learn to have a good relationship with your money. You have to really develop skills that make you a good person with money. And that's the business side of acting. Like that really is. If everyone could handle their money properly, everyone could be actors. I truly believe it. I really, really do. But it's a very, very important part, especially being in the 19, 18, 17, like you're about to possibly go to college, possibly just be in the real world. You've got to know how to spend it. You've got to know how to make it. You've got to know how to make it work for you. And I think that's truly the most important part, all acting aside. So yeah.
Yeah, that's super important. I'm glad you brought that up because it's true. It's very expensive. Like there's so many things that go into it. And if you're like, especially at that age group, 17, 18, 19, when you're just starting to really become independent, especially
Mhm.
financially, maybe starting to move out or go to college, like you really have to figure that out. I'm about to turn
Mhm.
17, so I'm just starting to like
Yeah.
get into that. And it's scary, like it's people talk about also, having a day job to
Mhm.
pay for like rent while you're also auditioning, which that of
Mhm.
itself can be insane. Like
You
I,
can't even have a 9 to 5. Like truly,
right,
you cannot have a 9 to 5 if you're really trying to pursue this because you need
right,
time to audition. You need to go to class. You need to network. Yeah. So like, how do you not have a 9 to 5, but you're able to pay for it? Like, so
right,
it is very clear that some people who already have it so easy money wise, of course, are going to be able to pursue acting. It is so much easier to pursue it when you have that financial comfortability to be able to do it. But until then, you are essentially hustling for what you need to
yep.
do, And so, yeah, I feel like, again, people just don't talk about it. And I think it's because they're too shy to say what it really is, because it is a taboo like thing to be like, oh, but like I can do it, like you can, So I always it's interesting.
I agree.
Yeah.
I forget, a lot of people have said this, but a lot of people can act. A lot of people have the
Hmm.
talent to act. It's whether or not you're, again, the whole business side, it's whether or not you
Yeah.
can pay for it. It's whether or not you
Hmm.
know how to market yourself, you know how to brand
Yep.
yourself, you know how to pitch yourself to people, to
Hmm.
agents, to managers, to casting. You need to know how to do all of those things aside from the actual talent
Yeah.
aspect of it,
Yep.
so you can do what you love.
I
And I
agree.
think I've lucked out because I've fallen in love with the business. Like I have genuinely
Hmm.
fallen in love with like building relationships and doing
Yeah.
emails and writing things and doing things like this. Like this, I'm not acting,
Hmm.
but it has to do
Yeah.
with the industry.
Right.
Like I've lucked out because I genuinely love acting, actually acting,
Hmm.
and I genuinely love the business and managing myself and marketing myself. So I think that's
Hmm.
why I'm hopefully gonna go far. um, but yeah, that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up.
Me
And
too.
my last, again, it's like a big question, so you can go as deep or as not deep as you want.
Sure.
Um, in your time in the industry, whether it be right out of high school or even
Hmm.
now, what issues have you seen, and what do you think or hope that us as a generation of young people can hopefully fix when we grow up in the industry?
Oh, like issues in the industry, so to
Yeah,
speak? Is that
yeah,
what you're talking about?
correct. Yes.
Okay, cool. Like right now, especially in this time, I don't know if you're probably on all acting sides of Instagram, news, whatever. You know that there's a lot going on with unfair crew work pay and all that stuff that goes down with the union and XYZ. And I just think it's a humanitarian thing. How are we able to take care of the people who really make the movie magic like happen? It's crazy because this is an industry that is super like, wow, I want to be part of it, even if I'm behind the camera, even if I'm doing this and this and this, like even if I'm a personal assistant, like, but I'm a part of this. And it's like, how do we make sure that these people feel a part of this industry? Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, no one even wants to work behind the scenes anymore because it is so much work for just essentially being like cast away to the side, and just like not really appreciated, So I think it's a bigger conversation of just like, how are we treating crew? How are we treating the people who are really making this happen? Because actors alone could not do that. I'm going to tell you right now. Not at all. Even especially on Broadway. And like, I even took tech my last year because I had literally no classes left to take. And I was just like, let me fill up my schedule. And I really wanted to try and see what it was all about. But like building sets, like using your physical labor to literally build sets, tear that down, like do everything about it. There's so much, and like stage managing and just like keeping a track of everything and having higher ups yell at you for doing that. Like it's ridiculous. Like there's a lot of nasty stuff that goes on behind the scenes of acting and just this industry in general, but that definitely needs to be fixed. And one way or another, we will try to make advancements, just like anything else in the society where we're moving up. There's only hopefully one way to go, and that's up. But yeah, I feel like it's that. Like I don't even know how to really put that into words, honestly, because it's so much more of a bigger problem. But yeah, definitely that is an issue in the industry that I feel like can be fixed with a lot of just like, let's talk about it, communication, let's
Yeah.
figure it out. Yeah.
I agree. That's so true. I think we
Mm-hmm.
actually, someone brought that up in the my last
Mm-hmm.
youth talk we did, and I was so glad he brought it up because
Mm-hmm.
I've been on set a few times, even if it's for smaller things like a short film or a
Right.
very low budget indie film. the
Mhm.
crew is amazing. Like,
They're
especially
so
during
good.
COVID when it's a lot,
Yeah.
oftentimes a skeleton crew, like it's very
Yep.
much not
Mhm.
100 people, it's like
Nope.
10 people. It's it,
Mhm.
it's amazing. I'll show up at, I don't know, 8 a.m. and I'll leave at 7 p.m. Like that's a normal day for an actor, I guess.
Mhm.
They are there like 5 hours before me and like 5 hours after me.
Mhm.
It's insane. So I'm really glad you
Yeah.
brought it up.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah. And they also, like,
Mhm.
another point, they don't have, we have representation. If we're mistreated, we can call our
Correct.
agent or we can call the
Yeah.
union or we can call our
Mhm.
manager and be like, hey, this happened. This shouldn't be happening like
Mhm.
while I'm on set or whatever. And they don't have that really. I mean, they do to an
Yeah.
extent, but definitely not to
Mhm.
the degree that
Yeah.
actors do. Oftentimes,
Mhm.
recognizable actors, the people that are on the
Yep.
screen, like will make the deadline news and all that stuff.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
we can talk about that for an hour, but I'm glad you brought it up.
I know. Yeah,
um,
for sure. Me too.
yeah. And my last thing, a general question, any advice to young actors who are either wanting to become an actor or are already
Mhm.
pursuing it, like currently?
Yeah. Hey, you got to keep going if it's something that you love. Like the only way that you really fail is if you quit. Like really and truly. I mean, there are people who don't even have their big breaks till they're 60, but are you willing to wait for that if that's what is meant for you in the past? Like I really do think that I mean there's a project for anybody these days. Like they're casting real people. They're casting people that are you. They're writing different stories and new things every day, and there will be something for you. But right now it's a matter of being consistent and having that willpower to have a 30-year 40-year long career, that sometimes you don't even, I just listened to a really really good episode on on podcast. I need to link it, but you need to link it because it's really good. And it was um this woman talking about, how she booked her first big series regular role, and just the process of it, and just the fact that even after that you may book a series regular, but an actor's career isn't just a J curve. It really is an up and down. Some people, even people like Zendaya, like anybody that's huge these days, now they're getting offers rolling in, whatever. But like if you really like take a little nitty gritty look at their career timeline, it's really an up and down. You're peaking at one point, like Zendaya for example, let's just do that. Like she's huge now, and like now back to back to back stuff. But there was a point where it was Shake It Up and Disney, and then it was nothing. Then it was Casey Undercover, then there's Dancing with the Stars, and then just honestly silence. No one heard anything really much from Zendaya until like Euphoria again. And I was like 4 or 5, like I don't even know the timeline, but it was years later. So that was obnoxious. I don't know what is going on. LA for you. But yeah, but you see what I'm saying? Like it's not just like like next year we're gonna do this and whatever.
Great.
Yeah, but as an actor you're always working, and you're always trying to be the best you that you can be, and that comes with a lot of behind the scenes that doesn't include the acting. So focus on that too. So as a young actor and just starting your career, accept the fact that your career might not start or really start the way that you want it to until you're 30, until you're later than that. So like, are you willing to wait for that if that's what this is for you? So yeah, I feel like
That's
that's my
that's a
advice.
great that's a great question to pose because some people
Yeah.
it'll take them a month and other people it'll take
Mhm.
them a decade or two
Yeah.
decades to get,
Yeah.
like that recurring guest star role or get like that
Mhm.
golden like role that they really need to
Right.
get. It's so true. And
Mhm.
my last thing, a plug, any opportunity like
Ooh.
Instagrams, things coming out, things you're working on, anything.
Sure. Yeah. Things I'm working on, just auditioning a lot, as we both are. I'm also even trying to switch. By the time this episode comes out, I should be in different representation agency wise. So that should be interesting. And that's what I'm working on really, like acting wise. I'm going to take an intensive next month, which is exciting. And yeah, that's acting stuff. And then as far as like socials and whatever, I have a YouTube channel. I'm pretty sure you'll do all the dirty work for me and put it all down below. But YouTube channel, podcast, where I also had tons of actors on as well, talk about their careers, journeys. And Instagram at Jada Jones with 3 S's. And I think that's it. We're just chilling. Yeah.
Yes. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So yeah, that was my talk with Jada. It was so nice to hear her insight on someone who's been in the industry for a while and so many different facets. And she went to performing arts high school, so she's trained in that, and her journey from doing performing arts and dancing to going to on screen and TV. and her talking about social media and YouTube and podcasts and what that is like and issues in the industry and talking about money. She was amazing. I really hope you guys take her advice. She is phenomenal. Everyone go check her out. Putting all of her stuff in the description down below, so please check her out. Please support her, support your fellow actors, and stay tuned for the next one.